Jai Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajagacharya Ashtotar Shata Shri Srimad His Divine Grace Abhaishna Aravind Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajagacharya Ashtotar Shata Shri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Samaveta Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai Jai Nitai Gaur Premanande. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Today we're reading from Canto 3, Chapter 27, Understanding Material Nature, Text 22. Jnanena drishta tattvena. Jnanena drishta tattvena. Vairagyena baliyasa. Vairagyena baliyasa. Tapoyuktena yogena. Tapoyuktena yogena. Tivrenatma samadhina. Tivrenatma samadhina. Jnanena drishta tattvena. Vairagyena baliyasa. Tapoyuktena yogena. Tivrenatma samadhina. Jnanena drishta tattvena. Vairagyena baliyasa. Tapoyuktena yogena. Tivrenatma samadhina. Jnanena drishta tattvena. Vairagyena baliyasa. Jnanena, in knowledge, drishta tattvena, with vision of the absolute truth. Vairagyena, with renunciation. Baliyasa, very strong. Tapa yuktena, by engagement in austerity. Yogena, by mystic yoga. Tivrena, firmly fixed. Atma samadhina, by self-absorption. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation: this devotional service has to be performed strongly in perfect knowledge and with transcendental vision. one must be strongly renounced and must engage in austerity and perform mystic yoga in order to be firmly fixed in self-absorption. Purport: devotional service in Krishna consciousness cannot be performed blindly due to material emotion or mental concoction. It is specifically mentioned here that one has to perform devotional service in full knowledge by visualizing the absolute truth. We can understand about the absolute truth by evolving transcendental knowledge, and then the result of such transcendental knowledge will be manifested by renunciation. That renunciation is not temporary or artificial, but is very strong. It is said that development of Krishna consciousness is exhibited by proportionate material detachment, or vairagya. If one does not separate himself from material enjoyment, it is to be understood that he is not advancing in Krishna consciousness. Renunciation in Krishna consciousness is so strong that it cannot be deviated by any attractive illusion. One has to perform devotional service in full tapasya, austerity. One should fast on the 2 Ekadashi days, which fall on the 11th day of the waxing and waning moon, and on the birthdays of Lord Krishna, Lord Rama, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So, there's many fasting days in our Vaishnav calendar, but Srila Prabhupada specifically said that we should try to do a full fast, like for the complete day, on the appearances of these three, not forms of Krishna, but appearances of Krishna, as Lord Krishna himself, as Lord Rama, and as Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So Janmashtami, Ramnavami, and Gaur Purnima. There are many such fasting days. Yogena means by controlling the senses and mind. Yoga Indriya Samyamya. Yogena implies that one is seriously absorbed in the self and is able, by development of knowledge, to understand his constitutional position in relationship with the super self. In this way, one becomes fixed in devotional service, and his faith cannot be shaken by any material allurement. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurin Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadahmayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishwabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Bancha Kalpatarubhyasya Kripa Sindhu Bhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Thank you for coming to this morning's Srimad Bhagavatam class. The topic in today's verse is about Dhrida Vrat, or performing devotional service with fixed, one-pointed determination. Tivra Bhakti Yogena is also mentioned. So, used to do all sorts of crazy things when I was a young kid. You get the magnifying glass, and the sun shines through the magnifying glass, right? And then that diffusion of sunlight, as it passes through the glass, it becomes focused it turns into like a beam of sunlight. And with that we used to burn paper and torture insects and all sorts of things. I remember seeing in, I think it's the 5th canto, Bhagavatam, there's a picture of all the different hellish planets and the types of punishment. And I saw a picture of a boy there, and he was actually doing the same thing, torturing animals. So very scary. But thankfully we've come to Krishna consciousness. I just wanted to read something actually. Because here we're talking about determination, but the thing that wanes the determination is the eternal enemy of the soul. And what does Krishna mention is the eternal enemy of the soul? Does anyone know? Lust. So then why does Krishna mention that the mind is also the enemy? In the 6th chapter, Krishna mentions that the uncontrolled mind is one's worst enemy. So why is that? If lust is our enemy, why is the mind our enemy? Any ideas? Lust doesn't originate in the mind, but they are related. But how are they related? It's mentioned in the 3rd chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Lust takes over the mind, yes, but more specifically in the 3rd chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna mentions that lust, kama, which is the desire to enjoy separately from Krishna, enjoy our separate senses separately from Krishna, hides itself in 3 different places. Right? So one of them is your senses, one of them is your mind, and one of them is your intelligence. Right? Now you can understand that, okay, if lust resides in our senses, it's very obvious. Like we're walking down a street, we hear some beautiful music, immediately the ears want to listen to what it is. The ears get attracted to the sound, the eyes get attracted to the form. Right? Even if you're passing, you see something flashing in the corner of your eye, naturally the eyes immediately, you're not even consciously thinking about it, but your eyes just, they just move towards that form. And that's mentioned in the 4 Kumaras when they're talking to, in the 11th canto, talking to the Hamsavatar. About Hamsavatar, he mentions that the senses are naturally drawn to the sense objects, and the sense objects are there just to attract the senses. Fine. Now, lust also resides in our mind. Right? And our mind, what does the mind do? The mind is like, it's telling us, I want to do this, I want to do that, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do that. So the mind is just accepting and it's rejecting things. Fine, lust resides in our mind. That means the mind is telling us, I want to enjoy that, I want to enjoy this situation, I want to do this, I want to do that. And it's telling you, I don't want to do austerity. I don't want to chant Hare Krishna. I don't want to wake up early in the morning. I don't want to do this, that. So it's telling us, I want to do this, I want to do that, for sense gratification. If it's affected by lust, which it is for everyone. Yeah. Now the intelligence is higher than the mind. Yo buddhe parata stusa. Right? Manasastu para buddhir yo buddhe parata stusa, Krishna mentions. So higher than the mind is the intelligence, and higher than the intelligence is the soul. But what is the function of the intelligence in relationship to the mind? The intelligence tells the mind what it should do and what it should not do. If your mind is telling you to go somewhere and enjoy, watching a movie or something like that, the intelligence, the spiritualized intelligence, the intelligence which has been infused with transcendental knowledge, it tells the mind, no, this is not something you should do. It's not beneficial for your Krishna consciousness. Now think about this. Lust is also hiding in the intelligence. The thing that's supposed to guide the mind, the thing that's supposed to guide the senses, the disease of the conditioned soul in the mature world, lust is so severe that it's even affecting the intelligence as well. So it's a very precarious situation. And that's why we can't get out of the tabernacle of material existence ourselves. We have to depend on the mercy of either Krishna or Krishna's devotee himself. Just like it's mentioned that Prahlad Maharaj mentions that those who are blind, they can't help other blind people. If you're stuck in a well, then you can't help yourself. If you're stuck in a well with another person who's also stuck in the well, you can't get out. You have to wait until someone else who's free comes and throws down a rope. I remember many, many years back, sometimes like maybe once a month or so, the devotees in the ashram, we go to the farm, New Gokul farm, just to sort of recharge a little bit. So, as it happened, one time, all the devotees in the ashram, they went to the farm, and usually we cook a little something opulent, pizza or something like that. So then they went, everyone went, and somehow I wanted to go as well, but then I couldn't go. For some reason, I can't remember. Maybe there was not enough space in the car, or I had some service that I had to do or something like that. And I was really bummed. I really wanted to go. So I thought to myself, they cooked for themselves very nice opulent food, and now they're enjoying in the farm, chanting and dancing in front of Radha Gokulananda, patting the cows, doing all sorts of fun things that we don't get to do here in the city. And here I am, just sitting in the temple, just doing my service. So I was really bummed. And then it became nighttime, and I was waiting for all the devotees to come back, and still they didn't come back, and my mind was telling me they must be having so much fun there. And then, in the restaurant, they were serving some, downstairs in the restaurant, in the temple, they were serving some paneer sabji. And I thought to myself, here's my chance. Here's my chance to enjoy. Just like they're enjoying, here's my chance to enjoy. Right? So out of spite, I went down with my plate and got the sabji, brought it back up, sat down, and even though I wasn't hungry, right? Just because I was jealous or whatever, I started eating. And then I thought that I would enjoy it by eating that sabji. But as I was eating it, bite by bite, I started to become fearful, actually. And that was a really strong realization that I had. As I ate, with the intention of satisfying my tongue, satisfying my senses, and not for maintaining the body, not for eating prasad because it's Krishna's mercy, and then this is how we can become Krishna conscious, by meditating about how Krishna has enjoyed this food. As I ate that, even though it was prasad, as I ate it for my sense gratification, bite by bite, I started to become fearful, and my appetite was going away. I didn't want to eat it. And I thought to myself, what would happen if at this moment I left my body? My consciousness would be in a really pathetic state, in a really bad state. I would artificially try to yell out, Krishna, Krishna, but with the activities that I'm engaged in, it's artificial. So I was fearful at that point in time. So I got the realization that if I'm engaging in activities of sense gratification, at the same time I'm externally practicing Krishna consciousness, that's not a very good situation to be in. And Krishna mentions this in the Bhagavad Gita. Indriyani samyamya ya aste manasa smaran. Then what is it? Indriyani samyamya yaste manasa smaran. Indriyarthan vimudatma mityachar sochate. Krishna mentions. So recently, I was listening to a lecture by Sriman Prabhu, and he was mentioning that all devotees in Krishna consciousness movement, maybe not all, unless you're a pure devotee of Krishna. I'm guessing most of us aren't pure devotees of Krishna. We're afflicted to some degree by the three modes of material nature, by lust, anger, greed, madness, envy, illusion. There's two different faces, Radheshyam Prabhu is saying that we sometimes show. One face is that of, yes, we should be renounced. Yes, we should be preaching Krishna consciousness. Yes, we should wake up early and chant our rounds. We should be very strict. We should be very austere. So externally, we're doing the motions, right? Singing Mangalarti, even giving Bhagavatam class, preaching, distributing books, whatnot, cooking. Whatever our service is, we may be absorbed in that. But internally, what are we thinking about? Are we thinking about Krishna, or are we meditating on our past desires? Are we meditating on satisfying our senses, or planning to satisfy our senses somehow? So Prabhupada says that material sense gratification and Krishna consciousness goes ill together. Specifically, he said that sex desire and Krishna consciousness go ill together. Sex desire is nothing but the most concentrated form of sense gratification in this material world. So he said, in this way, sometimes us devotees, we can be hypocritical. That when we're preaching to the public, when we're associating with other sadhus, we can show this face that we're very devotional, very austere, like that. But then secretly, secret means no one can penetrate your mind, right? No one can know what you're thinking about. Yeah, very few mind readers, people with mystic siddhis these days in Kali Yuga. Right? So, because your mind is your private space, we don't know what other people are thinking about in their mind. Only we know what we're thinking about in our mind. And because we have that liberty that we can think whatever we want in our mind and no one else will know, he was saying that we tend to exploit that. So externally we put on a devotional show, but internally we think about sense gratification. So this is duplicity. This is hypocritical nature. Or even devotees. So we should try to avoid this. So we should try to purify our mind. And one very effective way that we can do this, you know, I think it's in Chaitanya Charitamrita. It mentions that all the verses in the Shastras can be understood in three different ways: Sambandha, Prayojan, and Abhidheya. Sambandha means our relationship with Krishna. Abhidheya means the process that we have to follow to reach Krishna. And Prayojan means the final goal, which is to become a pure devotee of Krishna, become a pure devotee of the holy name of Krishna. So in your mind, you can come up with goals that fit into these three categories. Goals or statements or affirmations that fit into these three categories. So if I said to you, okay, Sambandha. Sambandha means what? It means our identity, right? In relationship with Krishna. So can anyone think of a verse from the Shastra that tells us what our Sambandha is with Krishna? Jivera Swarupa hoy, Krishna Nityadas. Anything else? Naham Vipro Nacha Narapati Napi Vaishyo Na Shudro Naham Varni Nacha Grihapati Gatirva Kintu Prodya Nikila Paramananda Purnamritabdir Gopi Bhartur Pada Kamalyor Dasa Dasanudasa. So Mahaprabhu says that he considers himself not to belong to any varna or ashram, but he considers himself a servant of the servant of the servant of the lotus feet of Krishna. Krishna is the maintainer of the gopis. Gopi Bharatur Pada Kamalyor. Das Das Anudas. Good. So that's your Sambandha. So you fix these, for example, 2 shlokas in your mind. So anytime thoughts of sense gratification, past desires, they haunt you, immediately think of that. This is my identity. My identity is that I'm Krishna's servant. My identity is that I don't belong to any varna, ashram. I'm a servant of Krishna. You can think of even more simple verses, like Dehi no sminyata de komaram. Right? Where Krishna is saying in the Bhagavad Gita that we're not this body, we're the spirit soul. Antavanta tume deha nityan prokta sharirana anashino pramyasya. In chapter 2, there's many verses like that, which tell us, the Gyan section, what our actual identity is. Now we come to Abhideya, which means the process. Can anyone think of any verses, common verses, which tell us about the process of Krishna consciousness? How we should be practicing Krishna consciousness? Yes. Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Hare Nama eva kilam. Kalo nastyeva, nastyeva, nastyeva gatiranyata. Any other verses? Manmana bhava mad bhakto madhyajimam namaskuru. Mam evashyasi satyam te pratijani priyosi me. Anything else? Mankrit Prabhu. Do you know any verses that we can chant that tell us about the process of Krishna consciousness? There's one very famous verse that we chant every morning in Shikshashtakam. Trinadapi sunichena tarorapi sahishnuna amanina manadena kirtaniya sadahari. So these verses tell us how we should be practicing Krishna consciousness. So you have to think about these verses or these statements or these affirmations in succession. First, immediately think, who am I? I'm a servant of Krishna. How am I supposed to be practicing Krishna consciousness? In a humble state of mind, rejecting sense gratification, associating with devotees, tushyanti cha ramanti cha, enjoying the Krishna katha in the association of devotees. And what is the prayojan? Krishna prema. What do we chant every morning when we sing, when we recite the 10 verses, the 10 offenses? What is the shloka? Bhahujanma karyadi shavana kirtanam taputana paya Krishna pade prema dhana. So Krishna prema dhana, the wealth of Krishna prema, is our goal. We want to become pure devotees of Krishna. If we don't know what the goal of practicing Krishna consciousness is, then how will our practice of Krishna consciousness be successful? How will it be, as it's mentioned in today's verse, how can we practice in a determined way, in a very fixed up and tivra, in a focused way, if we don't have a goal for ourselves in Krishna consciousness? Now, different devotees can have different goals in Krishna consciousness, right? The highest type of goal that we can have in Krishna consciousness is something spiritual. I want to go back home, back to Godhead. I want to become a pure devotee of Krishna. I want to be able to chant the holy name in a pure way without any offenses. But then we can have, you can say, lesser goals in Krishna consciousness, which are still spiritualized because they're within the realm of Krishna consciousness. I want to become the best book distributor. I want to become the best cook. I want to become the best singer. But if we limit ourselves to these lower goals in Krishna consciousness, then how will our determination in Krishna consciousness grow? Because once we reach those goals, okay, you become the best book distributor, you become the best cook. As my Guru Maharaj says, we should learn to cook devastating prasad. When someone eats our prasad, they should be devastated. And he gives an example that the first book of Srila Prabhupada that he got was teachings of the transcendental teachings of Prahlad Maharaj, which is a book that we don't print, at least to my knowledge nowadays. But it's a small booklet, and there he mentions that he was walking down the street, he got this book, and then in that book he read a section, a paragraph where Prabhupada is saying, he's comparing our sense gratification to the sense gratification of dogs and hogs, as Prabhupada famously does. And he said that, the sense gratification that a hog feels when it's lying down in the stool, in the mud, is the same sense gratification that we experience when we're lying down on a soft bed. Right? We think we're experiencing much higher quality of happiness, but that's not true. Because the pig doesn't want to sleep on a soft bed, it wants to sleep in the mud. So the quality of happiness experienced by the pig and us, sleeping on a bed, the pig sleeping in the mud, is exactly the same. And we think we are advanced. So when he read this, he was like devastated. And he felt so tiny and so insignificant by these words that Srila Prabhupada was penetrating into his heart, that he felt like melting away into the cracks in the sidewalk, he mentioned. So in this way, our practice of bhakti should be full of determination. And what does Krishna say in the Bhagavad Gita? How can we come to the stage of Dhrida Bhakti? Yesham tvantagatam papam jananam punyakarmanam te dvanda moha nirmukta bhajante mam dhridavrata. Krishna mentions. We can actually come to the stage of practicing Krishna consciousness with tremendous determination if we free ourselves from the reactions of our sinful activities. Why? Because these thoughts in our mind will keep haunting us. Right? We may be chanting, but then while we're chanting, we're thinking about sense gratification, we're thinking about our life before practicing Krishna consciousness and all the silly things we did. And maybe our mind is telling us, do it again, experience it again, try it again a second time. Anyway, now you're under Krishna's shelter. Right? So, because these thoughts are haunting our minds, that stops us, that inhibits us from diving fully into practicing Krishna consciousness. So last week, or the week before, we were talking about the cycle of samsara, about how avidya leads to sinful desire. The sinful desire then leads to the sinful action. Sinful action leads to two types of reactions. One is manifest reaction, called prarabdha karma, and one is an unmanifested reaction, aprarabdha karma, which then leads to kutam. Kutam means the tendency to perform that sinful activity again. And when that kutam increases, again bijam comes, the desire to perform a specific sinful activity. And again we perform the sinful activity. Like this, we're stuck in this cycle. So what we have to do is something which is twofold. We have to destroy our avidya, the ignorance, which is the root cause of all the nonsense that we're doing here in this mature world, by regularly studying Srila Prabhupada's books and discussing them and preaching them. That's one thing. The second thing is, when these thoughts of sense gratification haunt us in our mind, the key thing we have to do is not to act on those desires. Once we act on those desires, then there's a very large momentum in our mind, in our mental faculty, which propels us to keep committing that sinful activity again and again and again. Just like, for example, let's say, and I was giving this example to some of you a couple of days back. Let's say if you've never eaten meat before, right? You grew up in a very pious family, vegetarian family, you never ate meat before. And your parents sheltered you very nicely in that way, growing up as a vegetarian. And then what happened? You went to high school and then university, and then you were by yourself, away from your family. And then one day, your university friends, they told you, hey, let's go to this restaurant. Right? And they told you, don't worry, we'll order you a nice vegetarian dish. Right? And then they're all eating meat. And then they tell you, they coax you, they urge you, hey, come on, just try it once. And you say, no, I don't want to do it, I've never done it before. They say, try it again, try it once at least. And then, what happens? By that association, you try it. For the first time in your life, you try it. And then you think to yourself, what have I done? You lament, you despair. I will never do it again. And then days pass, weeks pass, maybe even months pass. And then what is the thought that comes and haunts you in your mind? You did it once. You can do it again. Try it again. Because you've already done it once, now your mind cheats you and it tells you, do it again, it's okay. And then by that pushing of the mind, you do it again. And then what happens? The momentum builds. You've done it twice, just do it a third time. And then you go back and eat again, and then it turns into a habit. So that's the situation where we're all at right now. Because for thousands and millions of lifetimes, this is how we've been acting, and we're stuck in this cycle. So, two things, as I mentioned. We have to try and tolerate and not act on those mental desires in our mind when they do come. Because by not acting on them, they just stay within your mind. And then that momentum, that inertia doesn't build. But then you're thinking, but how can I tolerate all these crazy desires in my mind? Well, the thing is, by praying to Krishna, by practicing Krishna consciousness, by every day waking up, attentively hearing and chanting the holy name, Krishna from within your heart, Shrinvatam Swakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Hridyantasto Yabadanya Vidunoti Surasaram. Krishna is not inactive in your heart. For devotees, it's not that Lord Vishnu is just standing there staring at us. Krishna himself, Radha Gopinath themselves are within our heart. And they, seeing us, eager to hear about their glories, eager to hear their holy name, Krishna himself is cleaning the dust from the mirror of our heart. We think we're doing it, but actually Krishna is doing it. Because what is the agent that is cleaning the dust on the mirror of our heart? Cheto Darpana Marjanam. It's the holy name. The holy name is cleaning our heart. And who is the holy name? It's Krishna. So we're just an instrument. By our desire, we just move our mouth and listen with our ears, but it's actually Krishna, the active principle. Krishna himself is cleaning our heart. So the Paramatma, the Supersoul, is very, very active in your heart. And avidya, as I mentioned before, how do we destroy that? By regularly studying, reading, preaching, inquiring about the subject matter in Srimad Bhagavatam. And I'll finish with this point. I read recently something very interesting. So the river Ganges, Ganga, she actually flows through the 3 planetary systems, right? She comes from the covering of the universe, and she flows down from the higher planetary systems to the middle planetary systems where we are, and then into the lower planetary systems. And in the higher planets, she's known as Alaknanda. In our planetary system, she's known as Ganga, and in the lower planetary system, she's known as Bhogavati. And another name for Ganga is Vishnupadi, because she comes from the toe of Lord Vishnu when he pierced the covering of the universe. So, Ganga purifies the higher planets, the middle planets, and the lower planetary systems. In the same way, it was mentioned that by sipping the Charanamrit, which has bathed the Shaligram Shila, or which has bathed the deity, or by putting that on our head, right? So either by sipping it, by putting the Charanamrit on your head, or by doing both of these things, one completely purifies oneself of all reactions, material reactions, and one develops loving service to Krishna. In the same way, Krishna consciousness benefits 3 types of people. It benefits the speaker, it benefits the inquirer, one who's asking questions, and one who's the listener. So our acharyas mention that by practicing Krishna consciousness, by hearing discourses on Krishna consciousness, Krishna Katha, these 3 people are purified. The speaker, the inquirer, and the listener. But not in the same level. the speaker is purified the most. Then the inquirer next is purified. Then the listener is purified. So listening is perfectly nice, it's good. Our whole process is based on listening. But then we have to qualify ourselves, we have to train ourselves to come to the level of inquiring and then preaching.